Good morning, everyone. I'm Christy Stark, the Director of Communications for the City of San Marcos. This morning, we're holding our second press conference following the tragic fire at Iconic Village in Vintage Pads apartment early Friday morning. What we want to do today is I'll go ahead and introduce our team that's here and then go over a little bit of how we will proceed during the press conference. And then at the end, what we'll do also is tell you a little bit about what's going to happen moving forward as far as press information, and then also we will allow for some questions. So what I want to do now is introduce our team. So I'll go from the very end. We've got Dr. Jean Bourgeois, is the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Texas State University. Next to him is our City Manager, Bert Lumbreras. Mayor John Tomaitis is directly to my right. I have Rachel Engel, who is our Emergency Management Coordinator for the city. Next to her is Les Stevens. He was our Fire Chief. We have Kelly Kistner, who is our Fire Marshal. Then we have Mike Waddell, who is a special agent in charge for the ATF National Response Team, who is assisting in the investigation. I have Jeff Caldwell, who is our City Marshal, as well as the Director of Neighborhood Services. And then on the end is our Assistant Chief of Police, Brandon Winkenwerder. What we're going to do today is we'll first talk about just the outreach and outpouring of generosity of the community, the resiliency of those who have been affected by the fire, and then also the resources that we have available for them so that everyone knows what is going to be available this week and moving forward. Then we'll move into the details about our search and recovery efforts, and also talk about the joint investigation. And I do want to clarify, they'll talk about that a little bit more, that this is a joint investigation between the City of San Marcos. We've got assistance from several organizations, a few of those being the State Fire Marshal's Office, and then the ATF National Response Team. So they'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll go over a timeline, and then, like I said, at the end, we'll do questions. So at this time, I want to turn it over to Mayor John Tomaitis.
Good morning, John Tomaitis, Mayor of San Marcos. I want to just start by saying how deeply saddened and shaken that I am, and I know that we all are, of the outcome of this tragic event. As the mayor of a city, the most difficult responsibility that I have is to offer the sympathies that I'm expressing today. As a community, our hearts are broken. We've lost so much. We've lost the love, energy, optimism, and potential of these young souls. So our sincere condolences go out to the families who lost a loved one, and our prayers for the victims who are still fighting for their lives. I want to express my gratitude to the brave first responders, our firefighters, our EMS, our police officers. They responded quickly and efficiently to put an end to this chain of events. And to all the surrounding jurisdictions who lent a hand and responded as well, know that in your time of tragedy, we stand to assist you. I ask that we all pray for those that lost a loved one, their families, and those survivors who fell prey to the ravages of this fire. Please pray for their friends, their classmates, their teachers, and the leaders of Texas State University who will help heal our united community. May God bless you all, lift you up, and may God bless all of us in the city of San Marcos. Now, beginning tomorrow, the city will host a resource center. We have nearly 200 citizens who have been displaced and are in need, and we want to focus on their needs as well. So we'll host a resource center for all the residents of Iconic Village Apartments, as well as the residents of Building L and M at the Vintage Pads Apartments here at the Activity Center. The hours of operation will be Tuesday, July 24th and Wednesday, July 25th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Organizations will be on site to answer questions and provide information on assistance programs that are available to the residents who have been displaced. And I want to mention one last thing. We have many families who are in need of assistance to help make final arrangements for the loss of their loved ones. So if there's anybody out there listening who can help with that, please contact our fire chief or our fire marshal, and we can help make that happen for them as well. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bert Lumbreras, City Manager for the City of San Marcos. Thank you for being here. As the Mayor said very appropriately, it's our hearts are broken. You know, when a community goes through an event like this, it hits us hard. And I wanted to take a moment to not only extend our condolences to each of the victims' family and their loved ones and their friends and everyone that had a special role in their lives, because it affects us. It affected our organization. During the morning of the fire, we had men and women. They were out there, even in the apartment complex, that put their lives on the line. These were residents. These were neighbors that were trying to help people, and that spoke a lot. The other thing that spoke a lot is that when our men and women who put their lives, who are our heroes in our fire department, our police department, everyone else that responded, racing to a very tragic situation. They were out there in extreme conditions, always wanting to get back and help because they knew that people's lives were on the line. Being a city manager, that tells me a lot. It tests us, but at the same time, it shows us who we truly are. So I want to extend my deep appreciation for our organization, our family, that goes out not only to the victims, but doing everything they could to essentially be of service to protect the lives that we could. I also want to thank many of our residents in our community. Our community has always stepped up, and this is not an exception. It is something that is always very heartwarming to see that our community has stepped up in many, many ways. I mean, we have a long list of organizations, individuals, restaurants, grocery chains, anybody and everybody you can think of. And I'm going to name a few, knowing that I'm pretty sure going to miss others, but I wanted to extend a personal thanks on behalf of the City of San Marcos, because they have really come in a time of need. We had CTMC, our local hospital that has been providing meals, Westover Baptist Church that has been on point to be a resource to the families. And then the Austin Disaster Relief Network, as well as Lions Club, our Hays County Community Emergency Response Team, and many others. Local restaurants that have been reaching out to residents that have been displaced and not only providing their services and their meals, but doing everything they can to step up. So I'm very proud of our organization because it really tells me that we've got the best of the best. And the other thing I will say is that a lot of the folks that are standing up here, you probably don't see it in press releases, but they have spent countless hours working this incident. From the time that we got the call early Friday morning to now, and even now going further, I can't tell you how amazed I am by all the work, all the energy, the professionalism, and the compassion that they have shown in this event. And that just really gives me a deep sense of appreciation for all that they do. So again, thank you, and appreciate you being here.
Good morning. I'm Gene Bourgeois, the Provost and Vice President for Texas State University. The entire Texas State University community is very, very deeply saddened by the loss of these lives. To the loved ones, families, and friends of those who have lost their lives, please accept our deepest sympathy. We wish speedy recovery for those injured or impacted by the fire, particularly Mr. Zachary Sutterfield, who remains in the hospital in San Antonio. To the hundreds of individuals displaced by the fire, we are here to support and assist you in getting your lives back to some sense of normalcy. I want to thank the mayor and the city of San Marcos, the local fire and police departments, the emergency response teams, and all of the various local, state, and national agencies that responded to and continue to assist in recovery from this tragic event. In addition to all, as has just been mentioned, to the community organizations, groups, and individuals that very quickly and generously stepped up to provide services and assistance. Texas State University likewise has rapidly organized resources and support services to provide assistance to our students, faculty, and staff affected by the tragedy. We stand ready to assist any student who needs our assistance, and to that end, I'd like to refer to a reference sheet that will be provided to members of the media. It basically reflects a web page that we have on our Texas State website and information that we've already pushed out to our Texas State community. Again, otherwise, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Rachel Engel, the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of San Marcos. We are currently working to assist those that have been displaced by this incident. We still need to determine whether the buildings that did not sustain structural damage are livable. And when that is determined, we'll be working to get those individuals back into their homes as quickly as possible. As the mayor mentioned, the city will host the Resource Center for all of the residents of Iconic Village Apartments, as well as residents of buildings L and M at the Vintage Paths Apartments, and it will be located here at the Activity Center. Again, that will start tomorrow, Tuesday, July 24th, and will be on Wednesday, July 25th, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are several organizations that will be here on site to answer questions and provide information on all of the various assistance programs that are available to the community. No media will be allowed access to the Resource Center. The participating organizations for the Resource Center include the American Red Cross, the Austin Disaster Relief Network, Texas State Dean of Students Office, Student Emergency Services. Department of Public Safety will have a mobile driver's license replacement unit. The City of San Marcos will have several departments there, one of those being our regional animal shelter. The Blanco River Regional Recovery Team will be available to offer assistance, and additional resources will also be in attendance here. A reminder that any of those who have donations and are willing to assist any and all of those that are affected by this incident, all donations should be made to Blanco River Regional Recovery Team, that's BR3T. The website is www.br3t.org. Please click on Donate and then enter into the comments the word ICONIC, ICONIC. All of these funds will be distributed to those who register when they come to our Resource Center tomorrow, and they will receive resources and things that will assist them in order to carry forward.
Good morning. My name is Les Stevens. I'm the fire chief here in San Marcos. I want to first begin this morning by echoing the comments of Mayor Tomaitis that our thoughts and prayers are with the families of these victims. Over the last couple of days, we've met with them in person. We've talked with them on the phone, and we've done our best to provide them with accurate information about their loved ones. They will continue to be in our thoughts and prayers through the coming days and weeks. Next, I would like to thank the media. You guys have done a tremendous job of helping us control an accurate message. We've not had misinformation being pushed out, and that's been wonderful as these families have been in a very difficult position of waiting for information about their loved ones. And I can't thank you enough for the class that you have conducted yourselves with, and I ask that you continue to do that for us throughout the remainder of this investigation. It's appreciated by our officials and the families as well. Next, I'd like to talk just a little bit about the initial response I could not be prouder of our local firefighters. The men and women of our organization arrived to encounter a very heavily involved large area structure with adjoining structures impacted, exposed by the fire. Numerous victims needing assistance that had self-evacuated, some of them who had even jumped from upper floors of the building. But we couldn't have done that alone. We called upon our resources throughout Hays County, our mutual aid partners, even partners as far away as Seguin and Canyon Lake came to assist us, and we could not have done that part of this incident without their help, and we are forever grateful for that. Our response moving forward has been as coordinated and as positive as could be humanly possible. Texas somehow finds a way to shine during these events, and this one is no different. From our Texas Department of Emergency Management, Chief Kidd has made sure that we have had every resource that we could need here to be successful. Our partners from the ATF, they've sent an outstanding team. There are over 50 agents here currently working to help us to determine the origin and cause of this fire, and they've been wonderful partners. Texas Task Force 1, our urban search and rescue team out of College Station, mobilized quickly and arrived on scene and immediately went to work helping to shore the building up to make it secure for the investigators from ATF and our local fire marshal's offices. Our Justice of the Peace, the Travis County Medical Examiner, have assisted us with coordination with the families and with the removal of the victims. They'll be continuing to work with us through the next several days to determine the identities of those bodies that have been recovered. Our State Fire Marshal's Office has been here as well, an outstanding resource. They've brought in additional investigators as well as canines to assist in the search. Seguin and New Braunfels Fire Departments have lent us resources to assist with our inspections of adjacent occupancies. The STRAC, our local CERT team, our police department, other local departments in the city of San Marcos have all been here to help us throughout this event. Texas State, again, has been an outstanding partner, assisting not only us, but assisting their students who lived in and around this affected building. Sir, we greatly appreciate that as well. And lastly, the Property Management Company. They've also been an excellent partner to work with throughout this event. We appreciate, again, all of their efforts. Thank you.
Good morning, Kelly Kistner, the City Fire Marshal for the City of San Marcos. And real quick, we want to start off with a quick update on where we're at with search and recovery issues. We'll then move into the investigation update or timeline a little bit, and at that point, our partners from ATF, Zach Waddell and myself will talk about that a little bit. I will tell you that as of this morning, search and recovery efforts continue on the scene. Texas Task Force 1, with the resources they have, as Chief just mentioned, with the shoring abilities, and also with continuing to search for any other victims that may be on the property, continues. As of this morning and the time of this press conference, there are 4 victims that have been recovered. That is a change from the information you had last night. Late last night, that 4th victim was recovered, and we continue to work that operation. I will tell you that Texas Task Force 1, along with the San Marcos Fire Department this morning, did clear what we call Building L. They did a thorough search of it, and we can tell you that in Building L, there are no further victims, and that building has been cleared, and all the search operations are done in Building L. Search operations and recovery operations will continue until we know that all potential victims have been recovered. Texas Task Force 1, San Marcos Fire Department, ATF, and the rest of our partners will not be leaving the ground until we know that all of the work on that side of this is done. So that is where we stand right now with search and recovery. As for the investigation, it continues as well. It is a slow process. It is a big scene that we are working with. ATF is an invaluable partner that we have as we're going through the fire investigation. And so debris removal and other things will take place. You will notice as you're out there the resources that have come in. You will notice that there are cranes, there's heavy equipment, there are command buses, there are tents, and those have all been made possible as a result of those partnerships that the Chief mentioned. As of right now, I can promise you that we will at least be on the ground through Friday doing scene work. It may go longer. Again, we're not going to leave until that piece is done. And the investigation could continue for weeks or even months after we leave the scene itself and after there's no longer any investigators on that scene. And that could be on follow-up interviews, etc. This morning, as we stand here, we do not have an origin of the fire. We do not know where the fire started at this time. That is still part of the ongoing investigation. If we do not know the origin, that means we do not know what caused this fire. We have no speculation and would provide no speculation on the cause. So as we stand here, I can also tell you we do not know where or how the fire started. And with that, I'm going to bring up our partner from the ATF, Mike Waddell, who's the SAC for this operation for ATF, ASAC out of the San Antonio office, and just give you a little background on ATF and how we're working together. And at that point, then we'll take some questions on that.
Good morning. Thank you, Bill. Good morning. My name is Mike Waddell. I'm with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge for the Houston Field Division. We deployed here with our National Response Team, our NRT. Since the beginning of the NRT, I believe this is our 870th response. We typically respond to kind of major disasters. And the idea of the NRT, or National Response Team, is that we partner with our state and local resources in order to combine efforts in order to bring, additional federal resources. Some of the recent responses that we've had that y'all may be familiar with are recently the Austin City bombing and also the West Texas fertilizer plant explosions. Coming back to this community, we have agents that have responded here from all over the country. Many of us have ties to this community, and so it's been a great honor to come back and serve this community. And the team before you that you have has made our transition, extremely easy. And so we thank you for everything that has been provided to us. Thank you.
What I'd like to do now is just let you know kind of how we're going to move forward with this. This will conclude the portion of the press release where we're giving out information. The last thing I'd like to leave you with is how we're going to move forward. We'll continue to issue press releases, keep our Facebook page up to date, our website. If you go to our homepage at sanmarcostx.gov, there's a button you can click on. Anyone who's been affected by the fire, there's a lot of information, a lot of the Texas state information and the resource recovery information is available there, and we'll continue to keep that updated. People have done a fantastic job of commenting and using the resources that have been put out. We'll also probably have another press conference toward the end of the week, if not on the weekend, as we have more developments, and we'll let you all know about that. So at this time, we'll allow questions, and then we'll just bring the person up to the podium who could answer that for you. Yes?
Marshall, could you get us a little bit more detail on where all four of these bodies have been found, which building, and how many people do we have still missing that y'all have not been able to locate yet?
Yeah.
What I would tell you is that the four victims are in the building that was affected by the fire, which we refer to as Building 500. At this point, we do not know the total number of victims, and that's why we will.
500, is that Iconic or is that the other building?
Iconic Building 500, which is the fire building that was affected by fire, the heaviest. And we do not know what the total number of victims will be. So I can't tell you how many more that we're still searching for. That's why we're going to search until we know that we're done. And through the technology and the resources we have, we'll know when that is.
Is that a process of going through the renters list and doing a list and checking it all? How does that go? It's a large building, it's summer month, so it's not, a full school semester. So,
The property management.
How many people that were in the building at the time, and how many are we still searching for?
So we don't know the exact number that were in the building at that time. Yes, the property management company has been fantastic about providing information on who the lessees were. And as far as you've asked now for the second time, the same answer, I can't tell you how many we're looking for. We don't know, and that's why we're going to continue to do what we've got to do.
Did the building have smoke alarms or sprinklers that went off?
So what I can tell you right now is that there are no sprinklers in the building, and that the reason for that is because this building was built in 1970, and it was in 1968 that the city of San Marcos adopted the 1960 Southern Building Code, and it was not a requirement of the Southern Building Code at that time to have sprinklers. And there's been no major remodel that we are aware of that would require them to have brought sprinklers up to date or into the building. So the building was in its original condition as it was code compliant when it was built. So sprinklers were not a requirement of construction at that time, and they are not a requirement of existing buildings given the current code. As far as the smoke detectors is what I'll go with inside the apartments, we do not know what the operational status of those were. We're still conducting interviews. We're still doing the investigation. So I can't tell you how many of those or if any of them or if all of them, sounded or what the status on those were.
Do you know when the building was last inspected?
We're still looking back on that. I don't want to give you a date yet. We don't know the last date of inspection. So as we've come in and reorganized our state fire marshal's office through the fantastic leadership of the chief and the city council and the city manager, we're still trying to gather data on a lot of buildings. This is one of them, so I don't have a date yet as to when the last inspection was done. It's part of this whole transition that we've been going through is to find out a lot of that information.
So just to be clear, no confirmed violations of any sort?
We have not found any records at this point on the last inspection, so I can't tell you about violations.
We don't know if the building was up to
Hold it
code.
one at a time. Did you have one? Go ahead, ma'am.
Some residents have told the media that the smoke detectors never actually went on, that there was no sound to alert them, that there was actually a fire going on at that moment. Is this information known by your agency?
It is part of the investigation. We have interviewed a large number of the occupants, and so it's information that we'll have to collaborate through other witnesses, through other resources, through forensic evidence and the recovery of evidence. So it is all things that we are looking at. Go ahead, ma'am.
Had officials been called out to this apartment complex previously? As it always just, was this like a random occurrence where had fires occurred there before?
I don't know the fire history of the building at this time. That's part of the investigation as well. And some of those records, if they exist, would have been obtained as part of the investigation. I can't tell you the number of responses for the fire department or the nature of those responses.
Do you guys have the identity of the 4 victims found?
No. So the 4 victims have been recovered, have not been identified. That is a process, as Chief Stevens mentioned, that we're working through with the JP, the medical examiner's office, and some of our other partners that are there.
Could you explain how difficult this is in terms of the size of the complex to figure out the fire and also the heat that you guys are dealing with? You might explain to people why it might take so long to get them answers.
Let me take it. All right. So what we're dealing with is a very large multifamily commercial type structure that it suffered extensive damage to all portions of the 500 building. The 300 building was also damaged. And so we have a very large scene that we're working in terms of square footage, in terms of, we'll call it real estate. And we have to make sure that everything goes, or that everything has a hand placed on it. This is not something where we take in a big bucket and we just dump it on the ground and we call it good. Every piece of evidence, everything that's in that building will be touched by investigators' hands. So that is a slow process. We've been battling heat that's well over 100 for the past few days. So those environmental conditions also will slow down this process a little bit. Hays County San Marcos EMS has been fantastic, along with our CERT teams and others, for providing rehab and making sure that our responders, our investigators are staying safe. So combined with the complexity and size of the incident and the environmental factors, primarily the heat and the humidity, is causing a slowdown, and we're having to take our time to do it.
Provost, are all these kids, are all the victims students at Texas State?
I can't confirm that until the individuals have been identified by the county medical examiner.
Also, Gene, new student orientation is going on right now. Are you guys telling parents about this at all? Giving them a heads up?
Well, we've pushed that information on the emergency and safety website. So otherwise, all faculty, current faculty, staff, and students have that information. That's the limit of what we're pushing out right now.
And do we know what time the fire started and how long it lasted for?
The first 911 call was received at 4:27 a.m. Active fireground operations and fire suppression went on through the afternoon and into the evening. So this was a prolonged operation for the fire department and all the other partners from around the area that came in.
Bert, I get you to address something. Granted, Friday was an all-day event, and that focus was taking care of the fire. It's Monday, Now we're hearing that you're not going to have a resource center for these people up until Tuesday. That's 4 days after the fact. What's being done for these people now? And why is it taking so long to get a resource center up and running? Why Tuesday?
That's not how I would put it. Let's be clear. We have been providing assistance to these displaced individuals from the first day. We were out there with resources, providing them with emergency relief. A number of the families, individuals went and stayed with friends. Others, we were providing hospital vouchers. So from the very first day, we were out there, and I want to stress that because that would be a total mischaracterization of what the community and the city has done. What we're talking about now is a resource center that then finds some sort of longer-term placement, whether that's either access to buildings as they're cleared and they're certified for them that they're inhabitable, and certainly not going to get in the way in the investigation, or we try to find other opportunities for them in the community. This has been an all-out community effort. This has been an all-out organizational effort from day one, and so I would stress that we have been out there from the very beginning. I will also say something that got passed over a little while ago is that the professionalism and the compassion, not only by our community, but our staff, to keep in touch with each of the respective family members has just been amazing. And that to me says a lot. So let's make sure that the story is straight. We have been out there with the people and the victims that have been displaced from day one, and we're going to continue until we get to some part where they can hopefully get to some normal life. Yeah.
Do we know how many smoke detectors are in each department?
Excuse me just one second. If I could add to Mr. Lamberis' comments. When I arrived on scene, we receive an administrative page when there's a working incident. When I arrived on scene, sir, one of the first notifications I made was to the American Red Cross to support the victims. We didn't know at the time the full extent or the number of people impacted, but the Red Cross are our go-to resource for initial response, and they were called and en route prior to 0700. We had already set up Mrs. Engel as our emergency operations coordinator to be the liaison with them when they arrived on scene. So I feel like, and we're definitely going to continue to support the families and the victims, but from the outset, that's been one of our top priorities, and I think we've done a tremendous job with that as well. Thank you.
And if I may add, the resource sheet that's been handed out also refers specifically to the different support services and assistance rendered by Texas State University. And so among those things include access to emergency funds by individuals who are students who have been impacted by the fire or displaced by it. There's a whole range of other student emergency services, referrals to off-campus housing. We run that through our Office of Residence Life. So we also are trying to do everything that we can for those individuals who have identified themselves as Texas State students, faculty, or staff to push out the appropriate services and assistance.
And I'll provide one last piece of information, some specifics as far as the immediate response. What we're giving information on now, as we have stated, are the resources for individuals who are affected that help them get back and sustain the normal daily operations that we all take care of, having keys, getting your driver's license, those kind of things, things that they may have lost and left in their apartments. The day of the fire, we actually had the activity center here open. We had Red Cross, we had Salvation Army, we had city staff. There were meals that were provided by CTMC. We had, I know that our staff also brought resources, snacks, drinks over to let people have a place that was cool, and also that just let them know that someone cared and that we know that this was a traumatic event that happened. There were also Westover Baptist Church. We immediately opened a family resource center that was opened Friday, Saturday, and we also had the hotline that was immediately open that was answered. I think pretty much 24 hours a day there was someone there to answer the phone, talk to many, many residents, many families, and you know, the special needs of those families who have had their loved ones unaccounted for. There were a lot of things that were done for those folks and that we will continue to do to help them in their time of need.
Can you tell us the gender of the victims?
I cannot tell you the gender of the victims. I can tell you the gender of the unidentified and unaccounted for that we are aware of. There are 5 people at this time, 3 are male and 2 are female.
Do you know parents are going to be sending their kids to school soon? I know that this what would your message be to parents moving forward so that way this never happens again?
With that, you can take it. I think our message, and most of us up here have kids, and we take, as I shared with the families of the unaccounted for early on when we met with them Friday evening, we take our responsibility of being the public safety and the officials in a college town. We take it extremely serious, and I receive, just this semester upcoming, I've received 2 or 3 phone numbers from people who are sending their kids here that, hey, I know the fire chief there, and they want their kid to have my phone number, and I'm proud that they do that. We take this responsibility incredibly seriously, and we look after those kids when they get here as though they're our own. We do a lot of stuff to support these students that isn't normal in other communities. At the end of the day, those building codes are what they are. When those structures were built, we don't have the ability to go back and require them to retrofit existing structures that met the code at the time they were constructed. If they do a significant remodel or updating of the structure, they go through our planning and development services process, and they'll be made aware of those requirements, and they'll be required to bring them up to current codes. But as an older town, we have structures, unfortunately, that were built, and they're period correct. And the safety of the things that had to be in place at the time they were constructed is there. We encourage those family members, again, the adults a lot of times take this stuff more serious than college kids. We encourage them to be an active participant in that with their child and make sure that they're aware when they move in that the smoke detector works, that they remind them just like we do to change the batteries in them, when they change their clocks and those kind of things. This is a group effort. We're going to certainly do our part, but we welcome any assistance from the families and the students as well as the university. They do a great job of helping us spread this message. Sure.
And I'd like to reiterate that, and in particular, that current students who are coming back in the fall or prospective students arriving at Texas State and San Marcos for the first time, reach out to our Dean of Students office, and they can get those families, those students in touch with our residence life officials and staff members who will work with them to find, alternative housing.
Fire Marshal, is the information you gave earlier about the building, the time it was built, is that relevant to just the Iconic Village apartments, or what's the deal with Vintage Pad as well?
I don't have the information on Vintage Pad because it's not our building of focus, because it wasn't the building of heaviest fire damage. So I don't have that information on that property for you. To your question on the number of smoke detectors that you had earlier, we'll have to wait and look at the floor plans and the arrangement of each individual apartment to better answer how many would have been required. It's going to be based on the number of rooms, the layout, et cetera. And that's part of what ATF's team, they have what we call a mapping team that's in place, that they're doing extensive electronic and manual diagramming of all of these structures that have been affected. So real quick also, so if there's any questions, we discussed this. Building 300 was heavily damaged by fire, just like Building L had fire damage. There will also be at least search operations conducted in 300 to make sure that we didn't have any victims in 300 either. So that is one, and that will be part of today's operations as well.
So L is clear?
Three total buildings that were affected by fire. Yes, sir.
So 3 is clear?
3 has not been cleared yet, so that will be part of today's.
L.
L is clear, yes.
What about M?
M was not affected by fire and has been cleared since the beginning.
Okay, so we're looking at 300 and 500.
Yes, ma'am.
And are those the buildings before the pool or after the pool as well?
One of them would be before the pool,
Okay, so closer to the road?
closer to the road, and then 300 is directly behind it, kind of off to the side, back and behind 500.
Okay.
So
And is the community garden ruined? There's a community garden there.
I don't know the answer to that.
500?
Yeah. Okay. What about the pool? Is the pool affected or the offices up front?
The pool is affected, yes. The offices, we are still working on all the buildings to look at the safety of those buildings from a building standpoint and also from a fire code standpoint. So I don't have the answers to where we're exactly on that. We're getting through inspections, and we'll start looking at that data when all that gets finished, and then we'll let you know where we're at on that as far as the other buildings.
Chief, could you clarify the unaccounted for again for me, please? Sorry, I missed that. So As it stands right now, there are 5 unaccounted for individuals.
That we are aware of, sir. We are concerned. However, you asked a great question earlier, and I'll go back to it. You asked earlier about our efforts. We have, Mr. Caldwell has headed this effort up in cooperation with our emergency management group. We have tracked down the leasing information provided to us by the apartment owners of every occupant. We know who was at home in the apartments. We know who was out of town. Where this gets a little more difficult is the people who had sublet a room, taken over or assumed a lease from the original occupant, people that had visitors in from out of town, people who were back at home over the summer and perhaps had allowed someone else to stay in their apartment. That effort continues to be ongoing, led now by our friends from the ATF.
5 unaccounted for.
That we are currently aware of, yes, sir. We've been in contact with 5 families, and as of this morning, those victims are still unaccounted for.
Have others come forward saying that they may be concerned that
We have not, but we are concerned that there may be more, that just because of the nature of it being the summer and not being aware of the event, that they just haven't been in touch with their families. So we're going to search it, as Chief Kistner mentioned, we're going to search it as if there's someone else in there until we've cleared the entire structure.
Excuse me, Chief, to confirm, you said 5 still missing right now?
There were 5 initially. We have recovered 4 bodies. What we can't speak to, because we don't know the identity of those, is that they are 4 of those original 5.
what is the update with those that are injured in the hospital?
I believe all of them have been released except one who is currently at SAMC. It's the latest information that we have.
So just to make sure we're all clear, there could just be the one missing.
That is our hope. Yes, ma'am. That is our hope.
Yeah, I was thinking that, yes.
But we have to leave it open-ended because we haven't completed the process. Yes, sir.
And the one is where?
We still in building 500 is where we are presuming they are.
The one who is, the one who's still in the hospital?
SAMC.
Oh, okay.
SAMC.
Okay, we have time for one more question, maybe from someone who hasn't asked one. Do we have one more? Yes, sir.
Recent light of this fire, are there any other surrounding apartments in San Marcos or all over that will be having new types of inspections?
Gonna let you guys answer that.
It's a little early right now to speculate on that. Our focus currently and the available resources are being brought to bear on this incident. No doubt, in light of something like this, we're going to have those discussions, and it may be that it yields additional inspections of some of those existing apartments. But right now, our focus is on the incident at hand.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.